Hi, thank you so much for joining us here today. On this month's segment for Beyond the Resume, our topic is about navigating careers as well as unlocking your career potential with the none and but lovely Tisha Lim. So Tisha is a talent acquisition lead based in Dubai with over 13 years of experience, both in-house as well as agency. So with much further ado, I am going to introduce to you Tisha. Tisha, say hello.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. I appreciate you here on this call and your time.
Thank you. We look forward to hearing all about the golden nuggets that you have to share with our community here at Illuminate. So, here at Illuminate, we like to start off and warm up with a few questions. The first one is tell us about yourself in your 30-second elevator pitch. And then the next one is what's one thing that's not on your LinkedIn profile?
Sure, I'll go ahead and introduce myself. So, everyone, I'm Tisha. In a one-liner, I would say I'm a woman who always strives and to make a positive change in this world, regardless of my role in life, regardless of the capacity I play.
Mm.
And one thing that's not on LinkedIn, I'm a pour into three cats, and secretly, maybe not so secretly now that it's gonna be out there, I dream of living on a farm one day. So that's the ideal.
That is amazing. Yes, evidently you even have a room just for your cats, right?
I do.
Yeah. That's amazing. Awesome. So now that we've warmed up, we are going to go straight into the first topic, which is all about navigating careers. So, with all your wealth of knowledge in this space, with over 13 years of experience, can you please share with us some of the kind of pivotal moments or decisions that you've made while navigating any career changes?
Wow, there have been so many. I would say um it's probably that point where I had accepted a senior role in a new industry when
Hmm.
I knew nothing about. Despite initial hesitations, I decided to do more research on the company's growth, its potential, how it aligned with my personal career goals and beliefs.
Hmm.
And that ultimately led to significant exposure and professional growth. So, yeah, I'm very thankful for that. Um, my advice to anyone and who's early on, I mean, really exploring your career, or potentially even considering taking a total switch in industries or portfolios altogether. I would say reflect on your individual strengths and weaknesses,
Hmm.
seek mentorship because that's ideal to knowing the ins and outs of various industries, complex workplace dynamics from an insider scope. Also being able to identify strategic opportunities in this landscape where
Hmm.
things are constantly changing, so that aligns with your personal goals. And at the end of the day, definitely also be willing to put in resources, whether it's time, effort, or sometimes even finances, to, as cliche as it sounds, ensure lifelong learning.
Yeah, for sure. On the topic of mentorship, could you share with us some very practical tips on how does one find a mentor?
I would say, at the end of the day, once you've built that network, whether it's on LinkedIn, whether it's online, or even physically going to networking events, strike up conversations, be willing to be keen and genuinely curious about industries where you are potentially interested in. You may not have a solid idea of it, but around that, at least be willing to have those initial conversations. And that way you would have someone, or you could even register for mentorship sessions, coaching sessions
Yeah.
in specific industries that you may be keen or you're leaning towards.
Okay, awesome. So on that note, because kind of career journeys are never linear, right? And they have twists and turns, and that's what makes it really exciting. But sometimes change can be hard as well. So what are, some when you created your own roadmap in the beginning, how has that what are the key steps that you've done for long-term growth to ensure that you're still strategically on the path?
I would say that's probably ensuring that you constantly check back in,
Mm-hmm.
because definitely internalizing, reflecting, that would help. Set goals for yourself. At the end of the
Yeah.
day, if these are measurable, whether it's time-based, whether it's even specific position-based, that way you can always look back and measure yourself against that, ensure you're still on track. That also gives you that long-term ability to visualize yourself in that role and work towards it, have the resilience to continue working towards it, because
Mm.
not it's never a bed of roses. You will have, like you said, the twists and turns along the way, but having that long-term goal allows yourself to be focused in life and
Yeah.
continue working towards it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In today's market as well, when we look at, redundancies, right? And so on and so forth. And when people are navigating these really big life changes. Um, so similarly, what are kind of your tips for them to navigate this massive transition?
Mhm. I personally, I myself have been in a layoff prior in my
Yeah,
career. So
yeah,
yes, personally feeling it as well. I
yeah.
would say first of all, take time for yourself. At the end of the
Mm,
day, it's no easy change. It's realizing that this is something that I have to do. It's a 180-degree turn in your life, something that you possibly didn't expect along the way.
yeah,
And with that, um, sometimes you may struggle to pivot. I would say recognize where you may potentially have stagnated in your career, where certain skills can be picked up. And once
yeah,
again, tapping back into networking for growth, ensuring that you have an updated insight to the different industries, whether you're continuing in your path of the
hmm,
same industry, or whether you're attempting to, since there is making use of that change, utilizing that as a
yeah,
moment to take a different step, look in a different angle altogether.
yeah,
So that way others within the different industries can give you better insights from an insider standpoint, because that's something valuable that you don't always have.
yeah,
And definitely, once again, reinvesting into skills development, because skills needed are constantly changing. This is a
yeah,
landscape where in certain industries it's a month to month change. In
yeah,
others, it can be okay, maybe still on an annual basis. So
yeah.
be willing to tap into that and pour yourself out there.
Things are moving very, very quickly, aren't they? Especially with AI.
Definitely.
So one of the questions I have for you as well, on that note, would be on upskilling. Obviously, it depends on the role, but do you find it, let's say for a mid-career professional, do you find upskilling with actual, paid courses or getting, postgraduate tertiary education necessary? Or do you believe in just getting stuck in another role and learn on the job? What are your thoughts on that?
Well, that varies. It varies
Yeah,
from person to person and
yeah,
the specific role and industry you're in. Some of
yeah,
them you may be able to learn on courses online or even in person in classes,
yeah,
whereas others are not as textbook as we would prefer it to be. It's not
yeah,
as black and white. You may have to be willing to put yourself out there once again and learning on the ground, whether it's taking an I mean, depending on where you are in your career, it could be taking on an internship altogether, or potentially doing sometimes now in this day and age, a side hustle, take on projects of your own, pitch yourself, and that way you learn even more skills than just that specific one you're looking at, because there are soft skills to learn along the way. There are
Yeah.
also there is a certain bonus in putting yourself out there, I would say.
Mm, mm,
Yeah,
absolutely. And it's invaluable experience, isn't it?
it is indeed.
Yeah. So while we then segue to, because our monthly topic is about self-care and wellness, and this is such an important topic for especially women, I find we tend to deprioritize ourselves, always putting ourselves last. And what are some of the self-care non-negotiables in the workplace you find, because burnout and stress is a very real thing for women in professions?
Definitely, I fully agree with you that as women, more often than not, I mean, in conventional societal norms, very often women do fall into the supporting um the role within life, whether it's in family, whether it's in the career, sometimes within teams, even when working with colleagues. Um, Definitely set boundaries, I would say.
Mm-hmm.
Prioritize yourself once again, give yourself time, because it's always a sacrifice, regardless of your choices in life, whether it's personal or even in your career. So find time for you to prioritize yourself, give yourself regular breaks, even if you may be the most diligent person, responsible person on the job, but still you are human. So
Yeah.
give yourself time, prioritize yourself, whether it's your physical health, your mindfulness practices with your mental state of being, or
Mm-hmm.
even seeking support when you do need help. Be willing to say, I need help. Put yourself out there for others, but at the same time also be willing to lean onto others.
Yeah. Yeah. That is, yeah, that resonates with me very much. I feel like boundaries is such a big topic, because, it's you want to, I guess, for myself, it's like I don't want to disappoint others and so on and so forth. And that's something I need to work on myself for sure. But what is it in the expense of, right? And so
Mm-hmm.
need to reevaluate that and ensure that, for optimal work, there needs to be boundaries. So the next one we have is on the topic of interviewing, which you do this many times over. So we'd love to ask you, what are some of the favorite questions you ask your candidates during interviews, and why are those questions important to you?
Okay. There are so many once
Yeah,
again, but common questions that I like to ask across, regardless of level, role, would be describing challenges. I would ask them to describe a challenge to understand their thought process, thought
yeah,
methodology, understanding that kind of reveals how they problem solve in real
yeah,
life.
yeah,
It also shows their resilience to get through a problem, because you may not find the answer in your first attempt. So it's about continuing to put in the effort to get yourself to where it is and showing that ability to persevere.
yeah.
That's one. Probably what motivates them as well.
Okay.
So that way you understand if they're a cultural fit for the role, the organization, against if you're benching them against the current team.
Yeah,
So that ensures cohesiveness, ability to collaborate within the team,
yeah,
and fitting of, say, core values within the organization. The
right.
third would probably be prioritizing tasks, because with multiple timelines, that definitely makes it quite a challenge with regardless of your role, no matter how senior or junior you are.
Mm. Yeah, no, that's the thing, right? So what a candidate may look on paper is only one facet of it. But like you mentioned, some of the points on fit and the potential through all these questions are also really necessary, right?
Yep, definitely.
So when we look at resumes, there could be some common mistakes that you see. I'm sure there's some real pet peeves for you when you're seeing so many in a day. What can you do to, how can women present themselves more confidently in resumes?
Women in particular,
Yeah,
are sometimes the way they phrase their resumes, the way they describe their achievements may be a
right.
little modest in
Mm,
comparison to their male counterparts. They may downplay a certain achievement. Instead of saying they led a team, they would have said like, "Oh, I was part of a team," and that
right.
does sound a bit. It doesn't quite put it on your resume and put it out there to that you were the one piloting it, you were the one the driving force of the team.
Yeah.
I would say lacking quantifiable achievements.
Hmm.
Usually, if they're measurable, that would definitely be helpful and eye-catching to hiring managers, teams alike, and also being too generic with objectives. So, like, they may once again dilute their strengths, and
Yeah.
that comes through in the language they put together.
Right. So how does one are there any, besides literally sitting down and finding their true strengths, is there any other things that you would suggest to women to have a clear direction on their resume and to make it impactful and powerful?
At the end of the day, a resume speaks about you when you're not in front of someone. So
Hmm.
the question is, what is that language you would like to use to describe yourself?
Hmm.
For women specifically, I would say, I mean, okay, generically, I would usually say just clear formatting, tailored experiences,
Hmm.
strong action verbs as starters of bullet points and stuff. But with women, I think it's showing how you can play that supportive role, but at the same time, still have the capacity to lead. And that
Hmm.
has to show through in the way you speak about yourself. That way,
Yeah.
others can gauge the confidence from you presented on a piece of paper.
Yeah. And this is going to be off topic a little bit, but as a talent acquisition specialist with so many resumes to see every day, and it's all about keywords as well, right?
For sure.
So how is the formatting needed to be in Word doc, PDF, or can it be in fancy, kind of templates, or what do you suggest?
It would Okay. The answer to that would depend on the role you're applying to.
Yeah,
So if you're applying into a very artistic role where you're potentially a graphic designer, a UI
yeah,
or UX um, person, then that would, I mean, the creative flair would help in catching attentions because as compared to all the other roles, like
yeah,
say, maybe the core teams like your finance, human
yeah,
resources even, then yes, you would want someone, I mean, like I said, once again, your CV presents you when you're not in front of that person. So
yeah,
if it were a more artistic role, then yes, I would urge you to have a more creative resume, something that looks a bit more eye-catching.
yeah,
If it's something that's a bit more, or if I may even say, structured role, something that an interviewer or hiring manager will look out for someone with a very structured thought process, able to think through processes and be organized as a person.
yeah.
Then maybe not. I would encourage you to not have too creative of a resume, something that looks a bit more straightforward. Yes.
Right. Okay. That sounds good. I think that's really, really important because I'm sure you can find some really interesting resumes that you see every day, very, very different formatting. And I'm sure as well you can say that, a small percentage of it is just like, are you serious? Right? With that thought in your mind.
Definitely. But I mean, to add to that, always grammar check, sentence structure check, and do that spell check on your resume.
Yeah,
Regardless of uh job level, you would be surprised. As a recruiter, we often see spelling mistakes, and it can be a bit jarring, especially if you're glancing through a resume,
yeah,
trying to find someone who at least on paper looks perfect, if I could
yeah,
put it that way.
yeah. Um, are cover letters still applicable at this day and age?
Mm, yes and no. I would say a cover letter is a good boost to your profile.
Mm,
Some companies make it mandatory. So unfortunately you would have to put it and have a generic one, but definitely cater cover letters if you're presenting them and sending them across
yeah.
to the role itself, to the company you're applying to, ensuring that the content relates to them. So it's
Mm-hmm.
not a generic one where you're sending to every companies from A to Z. Yes,
Yeah. Because yeah, I mean, it does take quite a bit of time to write these cover letters. So you're right, it needs to be tailored and customized according to that role. Um,
definitely.
and last question that I have with regards to resumes, but also on LinkedIn, would be how much how much of the content from your resume needs to be on LinkedIn? Is it word for word? Is it a summarized version of your resume? What do you look out for as a TA specialist?
Um, I would urge the applicant to look at the job description. It's very important to, I mean, like you said, we're in a day of AI. Half of the recruiters may even have an AI tool on their applicant tracking system to already
Mm,
vet those CVs.
mm,
Below a certain anything below a certain score, they may already filter out at the first glance. So that would definitely be helpful to yourself if you're applying for a role.
okay.
Have certain keywords that are still very much suited to the JD and to the company. If you are applying to something of a more senior level, have potentially even stronger languages in there whereby it looks like you had leadership capabilities. It
Mm,
shows it's not just, I assisted in I was part of a certain team kind of thing.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, thank you. So that brings us very, very similarly to we had a pre-submitted question and with regards to AI as well. So the question is, how do you see AI and automation changing the hiring process, like you're saying with the ATS? And do you have any tips on how candidates can stay competitive in this evolving landscape?
Um, a very wise friend once told me, quite recently actually, that
Yeah,
as much as it is an employer and employees market, in this current landscape, I would say the main spotlight shines on skill sets.
right.
So definitely constantly check into the industry that you're in or are interested in.
Mm-hmm.
Ensure your skill sets remain relevant because I mean, whether it's qualifications, whether it's roles,
Mm,
what makes you so different from someone else who's doing a similar role in this industry?
yeah.
So whether it may be soft skills, technical skills, or even language skills, depending on the role you're looking at, that would be what would set you apart from the next candidate.
Wow. Yeah, that's I mean prior to this as well, I would have to say it's a massive challenge how should I say crowded landscape, isn't it? And like you said, when there's just a lot going after that same role? What is that one person's USP? So yeah, and in terms of for your current role, how much automation is involved already with regards to the hiring process?
Because I'm currently consulting for different companies,
Yeah,
there are some that have, for example, automation, like I said, in filtering out resumes.
yeah.
There are also automation processes in crafting JDs from a TA standpoint. More often than not, you've heard of ChatGPT. A lot of companies are taking this on an enterprise level, trying to frame potentially their own GPTs to help cater to the workplace, whether internal stakeholders or whether external.
Yeah.
So they are able to find the answers they need and in a quicker manner, more systematic manner. So it's more efficient as a
Yeah,
whole.
yeah.
Yeah.
And also in the interviewing process, some of the kind of filtered ways also is to ensure that there are specific automated tests, right? Like whether it be a personality test or a culture fit or something similar to that, right?
Agreed. Yes. So whether it's interviews, and some companies opt for video interviews, so you're literally speaking to the screen,
Yeah.
no expressions. You're gonna have to gauge and probably rehearse a little before that to ensure
Yeah.
you sound cohesive enough to yourself to be able to
Yeah.
present yourself to the employer.
Yeah. 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 Lots of skill sets to yeah, and there's lots online to practice and learn from as well, right? To ensure that the candidates are well rehearsed before the interview. So that actually, we are very bang on time. That was an awesome, awesome time to listen to you and gain more insights from you. Thank you so much, Tisha. Let me just see if there's any other questions. Okay, no, okay, great. So, okay, yeah, no more questions there. But please do contact or connect with Tisha on LinkedIn if you'd like to hear from her and get any more words of advice or golden nuggets about the hiring process. But thank you once again for your time. Really appreciate it, Tisha.
Thank you too.
Thank you. And thank you, Luminaries. We'll see you next month for the next segment for Beyond the Resume. Thank you. Bye.
You guys.
See you.